Hello guys, thanks for viewing. Thanks for tuning in this channel. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the types of variables. So this is the continuation of the couple of videos that I made about variables declaration and variables initialization. So in this video, I will talk to you about the types of variables that we have in Java. So we have actually three types of variables in Java. We have the first one that is called the local variables. We have the instance variables and the static, or also called the class variables. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to just talk about local variables, and I'm going to do a couple of other videos where I will discuss about the two other variables. That is the instance variable and then the static or class variable. So what is a local variable? So what we need to remember is that a local variable is a variable that is actually defined within a method, okay? Within a block or within a method. And a method is, simply put, a function in your program, okay? It's a function, or it's like a collection of statements that are used to perform certain specific actions in your program, okay? So this collection of statements can include variables, okay? So, and these variables declared inside these methods are what we call by local variables. So I'm going to show you how to declare local variables. So since we said that they have to be declared inside methods, so first of all, we need to write a code for our method. We need to determine what method we want to create. Is it a method to show some information on our screen, or is it a method that would just make some calculation, for example? So in this example, I'm going to write the code for a method that will show some information on our screen. So I will say public void, and I will give the name to my method. I will say show info, put the brackets. All right, so I have the method, and inside the method, that's where I'm going to put all the statements. And amongst the statements I have, I can put my variables. I can declare my variables. So I will say, for example, int age, and then I'll put a value 18 here. So I have declared a variable inside this method. This method show info. So this is what we call a local variable, because it's a variable that is actually declared inside the method. And that means that the scope of this variable that I have declared here is limited to this method show info that I have put in here. Okay. So what it means also is that, for example, if I want to like access this local variable down here outside of my method, I will get an error because, like I said, the scope is limited to the method. And I say edge. So here I have put system.out that print line, okay, And you see that I am getting an error here. It says age cannot be resolved to a variable, simply because this variable is limited to the method here. So outside of the method, the system is not going to be able to use that. That would have been different, for example, if I declared it here, that's an age, for example. Let me remove this. System output. And I initialize it here. You see that there's no problem. Okay. So that's actually it. So I have declared my variables, my local variable here, age. That's 18. So you will also see that if I put the system that print line inside my method, I will not get an error because it's inside the method, and so it's inside the scope of this variable that I declared here. Okay, so I do not have an error. So, but what if I want to have access, I want to output this information? Because if, let me run it, you see that I don't have an error, but the output is not showing in my console here. It's because for the output to show, I need to specify it, or declare or specify it in my main method here. So in my main method, I don't have that information. So how do I do to make sure that this information that I have put in my method to show in my console? So the only way to do that is, to create an object, and through that object, we have to pass this information, the information that we have in the method, we have to pass it through that object that we will create. So the object we will create will have a type of test app, because test app is actually the class in which our method is finding itself. Okay, and how do you create an object? So you use the name of the class, test app, and then you give the name to the object that you want to create. So I'm going to call my object, and I say new test app. So that's a new object that I have created. So that means that this object will kind of inherit all the properties of this class test app, because test app is actually its data type. So this new object that I have created will inherit, be it if I had variables here, it will inherit the variables, it will inherit the methods, it will inherit actually all that is put inside the class, because the class is actually a prototype of the class is a prototype of an object in your program. Okay, so this is how you declare your object. So if I want to pass the information from the method, to my object, this is how I have to write it. So I have to write the name of the object that I have declared, that the name of my method. okay? And then I put semicolon. So all I'm saying is that, okay, take this object that you have created and pass through that object the information that was defined in the class show info. Okay, so now if I run, you will see that I will have this 18 here down in my console. So when I run, you see I have 18 in my console here. So this is actually how you access the values that was declared, the value that was declared in a local, in a method outside of the method. So you need to create the object, and then after creating the object, you have to pass the information from the method to the object that you created, and then that's how we could be able to get the 18 here. So that's actually it concerning local variables. And one last thing that we can also say about local variables is that we can have multiple methods here. For example, I say public void, and I say show. So this is another method. That I am creating here. And in that very same method, I will have another variable declaration, and I will give it the same name. And I'll say 18. So you will see that I will not have any error. Why? Because according to our program, these two variables are completely different since they are part of completely different methods, okay? This method is different from this one. So that means that this variable is different from this one. It's true they are having the same data type, they are having the same name, and it's the same value that has been assigned to them. But in terms of how our program says it, they are completely different. So this is also one of the particularity. So we can have, we can also use local variables with the same name in different methods or in different functions. And so we will not get the error, okay? Because they are completely different, because they are in completely different methods. And also concerning local variables, what we can say is that local variables, they always need to be initialized. Okay, for example, if I remove this initialization here, you will see that I will get an error. And I try to use that variable in a system that print line and then put age here, I will have an error. And what it says is that the local variable age may not have been initialized. So it's compulsory to assign an expression or to assign a value to a local variable, okay? So local variables are different from instance variables, where if you don't initialize, they will automatically get a default value, for example, okay? But in the case of local variables, it's an obligation for you to initialize these variables. Okay, so that's the reason why we are getting an error. So if I initialize it, for example, and I say age is equal to 18 again, you see that I will not get an error again because it's been initialized. So this is actually the principle concerning local variables. Okay, so if I say string name, and here I say int number, all right, so that's actually what we can remember about local variables. So we first of all say that local variables are variables that are declared inside a method. And we also say that the scope of these variables are actually limited. The scope is actually limited to the method in which it has been declared. And we also saw that if we want to access this local variable outside of the method in which it has been created, we need to actually do that by creating an object, by passing through an object that we will create in the main method of our program. And we could also see that so two local variables that are declared in two different methods in the same class can have the same data type and then the same name. So this in the way the system is going to see that is that these two variables are completely different since they are part of different methods. Okay, and also in the end, we could see that local variables need to always be initialized. If you don't initialize your local variable and you try to use them in your method, you will definitely get an error, okay, as we can see here on the screen. So we always have to initialize them. So that was actually it concerning local variables. I'm going to do another video where I will speak about instance variables and then static variables. So until then, thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to like, to share, and subscribe to get more videos like this one. Thanks a lot.